Something that I advise our technology clients at Cali BBQ Media is to lean into who you are. There's enough people in the technology restaurant space that are pretending to have the badge of honor. Oh, we come from industry, or we only hire industry. I don't care. I don't care if you've run restaurants. I don't care if you've washed dishes. I care that you're building the best technology that's going to help me run a more profitable, more sustainable, and more impactful restaurant.
Shawn, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited for this episode because I made a promise with you. I sent you a cold DM. I said, hey, if I get to 30 episodes, will you join? And here we are. You're the 30th guest. So
Amazing.
Very, very excited. I remember just for my audience, I first learned about Shawn when I was talking to a restaurant owner when I first got into this industry. And I said, who do you listen to? Who inspires you? Who do you as a restaurant owner learn from? And he sent me your podcast, Restaurant Influencers, and I kind of picked it up from there. And what really surprised me is not only do you have one podcast, you have multiple. You're everywhere. And we talked a lot about, you gave me a lot of good feedback when I first started doing this podcast and how I could be consistent. And one of the pieces that stuck with me is don't just have one show, have multiple shows. So I'm very excited for my audience to learn more about you and for us to dig deeper into your story and also learn about how you're helping restaurants and technology companies like ours. So Shawn, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Most podcasters don't make it past 10 episodes. Most don't make it to 25. So you've made it to 30, and I'm honored to be here because you have something special in you. We believe that everyone needs to have a storytelling gene, but just because you're good at storytelling doesn't mean that it's going to come out good in the beginning. And that's why you have to have a dedication to the craft and the world that we live in. Everyone can be a media company. It's just because you can be it doesn't mean you will be it. You actually have to put in the work and you have to put the reps in. Podcasting is one vehicle, obviously video, storytelling, audio, video, words, images, so many different ways to get your message out into the world. But no one's coming to tell your story. And that's why we love when we find other storytellers that whether you're beginning your craft or you're at the end of your craft and leveling up the masters, the people that I try to get onto my shows, I want to learn from the masters. I want to know what are they doing and how are they doing it.
Absolutely. Well, take us back to, I want to hear a little bit more about how you got into the game. Yeah, it looks like you started your restaurant, Cali BBQ, right after or during the recession in 2008. What was that like? Why did you decide to go into this crazy industry? And when did you become a media company? I want to hear that early kind of journey for you.
Sure. Yeah. The beginning started in 2008 when me and one of my best friends from college, Corey Robinson, there was a liquor license that my grandfather had at an existing property. He had gotten rid of a restaurant and we were managing the property. The current tenants, they weren't paying their rent. And we were like, well, we have a liquor license that we could activate. If we could, get some capital together, maybe we can open up a restaurant, even though it's not the best of time. This full liquor license, adding it to a breakfast concept would be a great opportunity for us. So we added a dinner service, we added a full liquor license, added a sports bar, and launched a business in 2008. Difficult location, difficult time, difficult business. But we've learned a lot. We've been in business now for 17 years. We have 3 locations, one stadium location at Snapdragon Stadium, a location at the San Diego Navy base on 32nd Street, a QSR location, and then we have our main location in Spring Valley. And we love what we do. The media company came because I realized that most business lessons and stories on the internet were done very poorly. Content marketing in 2017, when I first launched our podcast, was very poor. I remember being in business school at the University of Colorado. I was taking business classes and the business classes were uninspiring. The only time I was inspired was not during the lectures, but when they had a guest entrepreneur,
A speaker. Yeah.
and speak to the audience about them building their business, how they raised capital, how they had investors, how they had business partners, how they got sued, how they came up with their logo. All of those things made me fascinated. And I was like, well, podcasting is just a chance to interview other more successful people than I am and ask them questions. I'm going to start podcasting, and maybe no one's going to listen. And no one listened in the beginning. No one was listening to the podcast. No one was watching our videos, but we made a constant commitment to storytelling, and we made sure that every single week, no matter what, we were going to publish an episode. And, now we started 2017, we're 8 years later, and we have, I think, 16 different shows, whether it's for ourselves or for clients that we're producing on a weekly basis, long form storytelling. So a video component, an audio component, a written component, photo component, thumbnail component, lots
Yeah.
of moving parts to get a show off the ground. But when you have a show and you are constantly publishing, you understand that storytelling is still in its infancy. I mean, with all the tools that are coming out with AI and the ability to make videos without actually having to film videos, storytelling is not going anywhere. And the only way to stand out is the human side, understanding that 8 billion people on the planet, there's total addressable market of restaurants in the United States, 850,000, depending on who you're talking to, what types of restaurants. Let's call it a million just to be safe. But a million
Yeah.
restaurants,
Let's do that.
how do you get in front of a million restaurant owners? You have to stand out, and you've got to speak their
Absolutely.
language. And my competitive advantage as a media company is that I am a restaurant owner. I make videos
That's
that
good.
I make podcasts that I want to listen to. I write articles, and my team writes articles that I would want to read. We write emails that I would want to share. We send text messages that people would want to open. Like, those are the types of things that we're fascinated with. Those are the kinds of technology partners that we're looking for. And that's what gets us excited every single day.
Yeah, that you mentioned about being an expert, right? You come from the industry, you've done it yourself, you have grinded, and when you go into a room, not only do you have this digital presence and this media presence, but you're also an operator yourself. What I've been trying to cross the gap with is, as a technology company, my entire team is highly technical. I'm the only one with food experience, running a meal prep business in the past. The reason I started this podcast was to learn from the best of the best and to put myself into their shoes. But what's very tough for technology vendors is, for the ones that don't come from the restaurant industry, being able to cross that chasm, if you might say, to get into those relationships. If you're working with a technology vendor, what would you advise them to do in order to build a strong relationship with a restaurant operator in order to help them, with X product that they're trying to put out?
It's pretty simple. It's something that my grandfather taught me. It's something I mention on every podcast, but it's stay curious, get involved, and ask for help. Curious people are attracted to other curious people. Curious people are people that are hungry to learn and know that they don't have the answers. And as a technology vendor, it is important to understand that you don't have the restaurant experience, even though you have a restaurant background. I think something that I advise our technology clients at Cali BBQ Media is to lean into who you are. There's enough people in the technology restaurant space that are pretending to have the badge of honor. Oh, we come from industry, or we only hire industry. I don't care. I don't care if you've run restaurants. I don't care if you've washed dishes. I care that you're building the best technology that's going to help me run a more profitable, more sustainable, and more impactful restaurant. Like, lean into who you are, because if not, then you're lying. You're not only lying to yourself, but you're also lying to me, which is a bigger problem. So lean in on your strengths. And, I have technology founders all the time that they want to talk more about the restaurant ownership angle. And I said, if you went to MIT and you were the top of your class at MIT and you raised all this capital, like, tell us that story. Like, tell me why you're the best of the best in the technology space. And then tell me, how are you working side by side with restaurants to solve our problems? Getting involved is doing that. It's how do you work alongside restaurants? Technology is moving at speeds that none of us have ever seen in our lives. What our tech stack looks like today will not look like our tech stack next year. It won't even look like it by the end of the year. And the companies that are embracing AI and how they're integrating AI and how does it work in our entire tech stack flow, and how does other partnerships, like, there's a partnership ecosystem. So you have a tech stack, but how are they talking to each other? So everyone
Yeah,
has to make,
that's hardest
from a
part.
partnership standpoint, of like, well, who's feeding who information, and is it beneficial for us? Is it a rising tide lifts all ships? Are we looking with abundance? Or are we looking at scarcity? Because if we're looking at scarcity, then there's going to be this mindset where we're not going to share information. And then who's going to lose that? Ultimately, the operator. And if the operator
Right.
loses, eventually the
Absolutely.
technology company will lose.
Absolutely. The toughest conversations I have to have are with operators that have this like super niche POS, that they got into. And I just don't see a path in the near future for us to integrate with them. A, because maybe they're not open to other integrations. They have that scarcity mindset. And it's so difficult to help those people out. And I love also with the things that you do around helping other technology companies get closer to operators and build alongside them. I take the example of Toast, right? Toast is an amazing company that has kind of run that playbook with a lot of class and made some mistakes along the way, which they've recovered from. And then there's also other companies that early on started very close to the operators. I'm thinking like DoorDash as an example, started very close with operators, were obsessed. And then over the last couple of years, in pursuit of profit, they made some questionable decisions. If you had to kind of like survey the market or the technology market,
Mhm.
if you had to place a bet on the types of companies that are going to be most successful with selling to operators in this new environment, what type of companies do they look like? Do they look like these massive conglomerates that have a POS inside their brand and also have AI components of it? Or is it going to be a niche player that attacks a vertical and kind of moves upstream?
It's a great question. I mean, like I said, I think there are things happening that none of us have ever seen before. AI is something that for conventional wisdom, understanding I just got back from a 4-day trip with my wife to Istanbul. And what I use ChatGPT for as a tour guide to help me navigate things that I didn't know about the city, translations, currency conversions, restaurant
Everything.
location, times of museums, like literally the gambit lists of things that I would have never used technology for, or not have been, gone to Google and gotten 3,000 search results, paid search results, had to go through all this stuff. But now it's the level at where we're playing and how the technology, the small companies and the big companies are adapting to that technology. I think it will say a lot. The companies that are customer obsessed, like Toast, they have a customer advisory board. I just got back from the global customer advisory board. They had
So
the
I saw that. Yeah.
international cab, the enterprise cab, the small SMB cab all come together to talk, to share ideas, to meet with leadership, to see new products, to give feedback, raw, honest feedback. Those are the companies that are going to win, and like those are the companies that I get excited about. And being here, I'm recording this in Bulgaria. We're on a platform, Riverside. Riverside is a platform that we use for our media company, for our clients, knowing that I can have a stable internet connection. I can record locally here in a village outside of Vratsa, Bulgaria, knowing that I have no problem saying yes, because I don't want to give a bad appearance on on this appearance for you. I want to make sure I have a good, stable connection, but this is my trust in technology. So if Riverside is going to be a great platform, then they have to understand that there are podcasters all around the world that are trying to use this platform to do virtual recordings. And how can they be better? Because they have competition. They have StreamYard that they're competing with. They have Zoom that they're competing with, Google Meets. All of these companies, we're all trying to do the same thing, right? So who's going to focus, right? Because time and attention means everything. So what are you focused on? What are you solving? And just because you can do everything doesn't mean you should. Focusing on what do you do best, and then partnering back to the obsession. Like if you're obsessed with solving a podcaster's needs, then obviously Riverside is good enough for me. It's good enough for you. And we're here recording on Riverside. This wasn't meant to be a plug for Riverside, but to move
It's a
it
great
out,
platform.
but to move it out of the restaurant technology and talk about just technology in general. I mean, we're living in a world where I don't know how many Apple phones there are, how many iPhones there are in the world, but there's a lot. How many Android phones? How many people I'm on WhatsApp. I don't even use WhatsApp as a native messaging until I came here. Everyone here is on WhatsApp. Everyone in my wife's village, they're all on Viber. So I'm using all of these different technologies to communicate. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what are we trying to do? To have human connection. Why we break everything down into 4 C's: content, commerce, communication, and community. 4 C's, those things all live on a smartphone. All of those things All those technologies are all touching each other. So we're living through a very exciting time. And the companies that understand that are willing to ask for help, that are curious, that aren't too filled with pride, I think those are the companies that are going to win.
Absolutely. And you know what I was surprised, Shawn, by you is when I first started talking to you, you sent me a link to, I don't know if you were using Popple or one of these uh, aggregate Popple. Yeah, you were using Popple. And then I sent you a DM and I was able to book a meeting with you. What I'm starting to see, and this is a big trend, is that people like you and I that are running these companies behind the scenes, it's usually just a couple of tools patched
Yep.
together, and we're able to do 10x more than what we used to in the past.
Unbelievable.
Like I'm running this and it's unbelievable. And I think that can also translate into the restaurant industry as well. I was just talking with a president of a larger chain, and he's doing this offsite retreat with all of his team. And one thing I recommended for him to do is to challenge his team to find ways where they can use automation, ChatGPT, AI, just in general, to help them with their job. And you'll be surprised at how much you can do just with the tools that you have today at your disposal. I think operators today have an unfair advantage over the past,
For sure.
but it is very hard to do business in today's day and age with all the number of difficult labor pressures and inflation. How do you see the future of the restaurant industry when it comes to profitability? Do you think that restaurant operators are going to be fighting against shrinking margins, or they're going to reclaim margins by helping them clean out their teams and run tighter ships and be able to sell more? What do you think about that?
I have always believed that technology is going to enable us to run more profitable and higher margin business. And I believe that even more today, having this conversation after just visiting Istanbul. I'll tell you a quick story about Istanbul. So I reached out, I said, stay curious, get involved, ask for help. I reached out to my network on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, all the social platforms, said, hey, I'm heading to Istanbul. Does anyone know any restaurant owners or content creators in Istanbul and would be willing to make an introduction? I had multiple people reach out, Instagram, LinkedIn. My friend Ozzy from US Foods connected me to the head of a culinary program in Istanbul, one of his childhood friends that he grew up with. Jem took me to 3 restaurants, me and my wife. He took us to one of the best doner restaurants, to one of the best baklava restaurants, and to a spice shop. These companies, 4th generation, 5th generation, 6th generation businesses. Do you know what they do? Do you know how big their menus are? They don't have a menu.
Yeah, they
That's
don't have a menu. Yeah.
all they do is baklava. All they do is junior. All they do is spices. They're obsessed with doing one thing and doing one thing really, really well. And when you think about a company that, does 2,000 covers a day, that has 250 employees at one location, well, I'm sitting there watching 3 people answer the telephone. As you know, you're an AI company, voice company. You know what that opportunity amounts to. That's a huge opportunity. They have 25 motorcycles in the back of their shop for 25 drivers that are doing first party delivery. First party delivery. That's how much volume this place is doing. They've been in business since 1990. The baklava shop has been in business since 1843. 1843. They have 250 employees. With AI technology, with all of the new technologies that are coming in for not just restaurant owners, but business owners, we can scale in ways and open up. The baklava shop just opened up in Tokyo, Japan. They opened up in Berlin. Like this is the first time that they've gone outside, and they're a phenomenal business. They do 6,000 customers a day, 6 to 10,000 customers a day. They're open at 7
That's
in the morning.
incredible.
They close at 1 p.m. The Murat, the owner that I was talking to, he's the next generation. He's taking it from his father. His father still works in the business. He says, I've grown up in the business. I don't remember a day. We've never been closed. They're open every single day. But if you think about the automations that can happen from an inventory control standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, from a branding standpoint, from like name it on the stack of the things that we have to do as business owners, there is going to be a technology that is going to make it easier, more profitable, and more sustainable for us to be in business.
Well, I'm going to be in Istanbul in October, so I'm going to have to chat with Jim
Oh,
and get those recommendations.
I've got
It's
the
it's
spots.
phenomenal. It's phenomenal. Why do you think there is resistance from operators
Fear,
on adopting AI? Fear.
fear. For sure. It's fear of the unknown, fear of not trusting, fear of not experimenting. I mean, I think our competitive advantage, meaning Cali BBQ Media, is that we were forced to use technology in 2008. Like pre-pandemic, oh, we pivoted and we, started using social media during the pandemic. Like, no, we used social media back in 2009, 2010 because we couldn't pay our bills. Like we had to figure out Facebook. We had to figure out Yelp. We had to figure out Google. Like by the time, we don't care what the platform is. Like it's a incessant need to always be learning, always be improving. And as you do that, well, now that AI is here, we have no fear of trying something, of looking stupid, sounding stupid. And if we look stupid, sound stupid, but if we improve, then guess what? The next time it's going to be much better for us and for our operation.
Amazing. I think the last thing I want my audience to get from you, and this is something you and I have talked a little bit about, is the concept of the stage theory, right? And how I'm so grateful that you've been able to come on the show because I feel like I'm rising alongside you, And this is a concept that I've been thinking a lot about since our last conversation around how you can leverage these networks and these stages in order to propel yourself forward. When you're bringing on a new client, let's just say, how do you frame the concept of stage theory for them and for my audience that are running operations themselves, restaurants, franchises? How can they leverage the stage theory in order to succeed in their business?
Sure. So David Meltzer is my media mentor. Him and I have been working on this stage theory thesis since 2019. It's something that I recognized in him. And for those that are fans of Gary Vaynerchuk is a master of the craft of the stage theory. The stage theory actually goes back to Shakespeare. The whole world is your stage. Now, Shakespeare was talking about the whole world being your stage well before any of the technology that is at our fingertips. And the idea is understanding that your truth, who you are, what you do, will resonate with an audience that you want to attract. Everyone is so scared. So many people, myself included, are scared of posting on the internet because somebody's not going to like it. Somebody's not going to comment on it. It's not going to perform well. None of that matters. What matters is the master of the craft, understanding that you are learning how to present yourself, how you're learning how to speak on a podcast, how to speak in a video, how to write a blog, how to write an original thought on LinkedIn. All of those things, knowing that when I go to Istanbul and I'm traveling with my wife, visiting amazing restaurants, interacting with the culture, because I have the courage to look stupid, sound stupid, take my phone out of my pocket and do what I call smartphone storytelling, where I can take a photo, where I can take a video, I can use Instagram stories, I can use LinkedIn, I can use TikTok, I can use YouTube. I have a community, not a huge community. It's not a Mr. Beast community, but it's a community of other business owners that follow my content, that send me information. I wouldn't have met Jem if it wasn't for LinkedIn and if it wasn't for my commitment to reach out and ask for help. Ozzy wouldn't have connected me. I might not have been to that Döner shop. I might not have been to that baklava shop. But because I did that, now I have this community of like what I will do for Murat. There's two Murats, Murat from the Döner shop and Murat from the baklava shop. When them and their family come to San Diego, how do you think I'm going to treat them? I'm going to pick them up from the airport. I'm going to take them to the beach. I'm going to take them to the San Diego Zoo. And that's global hospitality. But that's only because you have the courage to realize I'm not alone. Like maybe somebody cares that I'm going to go into my wife's garden and pick a cucumber and pick a tomato because they've thought, well, wouldn't it be nice to live in a village and actually eat a salad from the garden? Well, I'm going to post that video and maybe somebody's going to see it and they'll go, hey, I'm inspired to start my own cucumber and tomato garden. That's what the stage theory is in a nutshell.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you so much for inspiring me, inspiring the rest of this industry, and for all the amazing work that you do. For my
Well,
audience,
I'm
I'll
I'm
have
excited
Shawn's
for your
links.
second. I'm excited for your second show.
Thank you. We're working on it, brainstorming. Shawn, thank you so much. Enjoy your time with the family in Bulgaria, and hope to see you
Of
soon.
course. Yeah. Honored to be on the show. Thank you.
Thank you.